Luke, if Marathon couldn't break 100K peak, I truly fear for Horizon Hunter's Gathering, says Buttery Cheeks. I won't be too specific, but I mentioned this to you guys before. I've spoken to multiple people who are either directly involved in making the game or who have played it in some capacity. And even among the people who are making it, I have not found a single person who likes it. Like, I think they're hoping that it eventually clicks and becomes fun and enjoyable, but like all of the feedback I've heard about it is like what are we doing? What are we doing? It is a game, it is a live service game in search of an audience and in search of fun, and that's not great. You usually want to start with, this is really fun, let's turn it into a full game. That's not what's happened here. So I would bet you very good money the Horizon game is going to do significantly worse than Marathon unless something significant changes. Because even now, you've seen it. Like I even have the video. Hold on. So this guy, if you don't know, if you are not familiar with his game, this is Arctics. He is a really cool guy. Met him a couple times, and he does a lot of coverage on like similar to Joe Raptor, does a lot of like coverage of open world games and things like that. And he's a big fan of, shocker, as you can see behind him, Horizon. And he was invited to the first preview thing that they did. But I'll just let him lead into this.
Whoa. So here we are on a random Thursday, and finally, after years of us knowing it's been in development but not seeing anything concrete about it, Horizon Hunter's Gathering, this is the Horizon Online project from Guerrilla Games, has finally been revealed officially. And I have a lot of thoughts, and I know you do too. So we're going to watch this trailer together, and I'm also going to dive into some of my thoughts on it and what I'm seeing people reacting to and all of that. But first,
I do want to say, like, you should absolutely go and follow and see like his whole video and everything. He has played it, he said, but he can't really talk much about it. But like, listen to this little tidbit too.
It was revealed. I didn't know that it was happening. I wasn't intentionally a much lower key reveal through this blog post and just having the trailers go live, and also announcing that they're going to be doing a playtest at the end of this month. So I think, and I hope, that they are very open to feedback, and they're kind of in a spot right now where they just want to get it out there and they want to get people's input on it, which is a positive thing. Even if you're feeling like this is not what you want to see from the game, it's not really what I want to see from the game in a lot of ways, and we'll talk about it. The other thing I can talk about on the playtest stuff, because it's out there now, because Joe Raptor shared it in one of his videos, there actually was a second playtest that I was not invited to. Now, just being totally candid and honest with you guys, it definitely stings a bit to not have even known about the second playtest until today when the game was revealed. I didn't know that it was happening. I wasn't invited to it. But truly, I think the reason for that is not because they were like trying to keep me out of it, but because what you typically do with playtests like this for any game is you often rotate who's in the playtest to get like different perspectives and different people's opinions and different people's input.
This is true. I've also seen it if they feel like you are just not who they are targeting and your feedback is therefore not viable or valuable, rather, like they'll just cut you out. Be like, never mind. Because look at this. Look at this.
So I'm not that upset about not having been invited to the second playtest, but there's a takeaway here too. And that is, if you look at this photo.
Honest question. Of course, we all recognize Jor. It's hard not to recognize Jor, frankly. We all know Jor. Love him. He's fantastic. Love me some Jor. I recognize Jor and Storm. Okay, you've probably seen a lot of her like short form stuff, YouTube shorts, stuff like that. Do you recognize, honest question, just honest question, do you recognize anybody else? And I'm saying this as somebody in my own bubble, okay? In my own bubble, I don't recognize anybody. And I think that's because these are primarily what are called variety streamers. So they play a lot of like smaller, maybe indie games. They play a lot of, well, variety. They play a lot of different stuff. They are not all in on Horizon. They're not all in on PlayStation games. They're not all in on open world stuff. They're variety streamers. It's also like the vast majority of the people there are also women, which I just find interesting because you don't typically see that in gaming. Usually it's usually a male-led thing, because there's a lot of dude gamers out there, you know? So I found the selection of who they have here quite interesting. And I was trying to figure out, like, okay, well, what does that imply? Like, if they cut Arctix out of it, because he says he was in the first wave when it was smaller, and they did previews and stuff late last year. I think he suggested it was like October or something. And then they cut him out and they bring in more variety streamers. I think, sorry, I saw one of the comments. I think what that suggests is that they realize that this is not going to appeal to Horizon fans. That Horizon fans are not digging it, which is something I can say for a fact that I also have experienced and seen. For example, Joraptor, the king himself, when Jor talked about this game, he described it as being like a massive disappointment. Yeah, literally in the thumbnail, I am really disappointed.
Yeah, I think there are like two ways to approach, and I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, of course, on this as well. I will totally be revisiting this. I want to probably do a video where I go over your comments, because I'm very curious. Like, I want to like kind of tell a bit of a story about, from what I can tell. So, Guerrilla Games reached out earlier to me and other creators to see the game and give feedback. So that's very good that they bring in people from the Horizon community, and
which I think is what they did. They decided we need to get feedback. We didn't do that with Concord. It didn't happen with Highguard. Let's try that and give it a shot. Get feedback so we know what people think before it's too late. They did that in October. They got Joraptor and Arctix and other people who haven't been made public. They got their feedback on the game. And then they didn't invite some of those people back. Presumably, I don't know this for a fact, but I would guess Arctix probably wasn't that thrilled about what he saw and probably told him. And so they didn't invite him back. And instead, they're focusing on a community of like variety streamers, which to me shows very clearly that they're basically giving up on the Horizon fandom to make the game like work and click, which is bizarre. But that seems to be what they're doing. And I don't know how that's going to work. I genuinely don't know. I think it's bizarre. I think it's really bizarre and doesn't really make sense. Now, again, I encourage you to watch the whole Arctix thing about the game and everything, because it's very interesting. But he has a bunch of little tidbits in here that are very interesting. Like even this one about the characters, okay?
I think are definitely a problem. I can understand why they wanted to have distinctive characters as opposed to like just letting us make our own avatar. I would personally prefer to just make my own player avatar. I think they probably want player characters so that they can like give them backstories and stuff. But like,
no, I know why they did this. Why does every studio love heroes in their games? Can I get an answer in chat? Can somebody take a wild guess? Why would a studio making a live service game like Heroes? Skins. Yes, skins. It's a lot easier to do skins for a set dedicated hero than a make your own character creator thing. Merchandise, sure. Movie rights, TV shows, all of it. But let's be honest, that's why they're doing this, okay? They could say, well, we just really believed in telling unique, original stories. Bullshiz. Don't believe you. I don't believe you. Maybe at some point that was a consideration, like, but you know how it's like when you've decided you're going to do something and then you come up with 5 other reasons to justify it, even though the real reason is maybe not one you'd want to talk too much about, you know? It's literally the live service thing where they make a live service game that none of their audience, or even according to some of the people I've talked to, a lot of the developers are not interested in this. They're not happy about working on this for years. But then they say, well, we've always wanted to explore other game modes and other things we could do with the franchise and all that. And it's like, yeah, but it's because Herman called you up and told you that you were going to do this, that you needed to do this. Let's be completely honest about it. Okay? Like, don't piss on my back and tell me it's raining when I know it's piss, because that's what this is. You know, I find that just really, really infuriating when it's it's like, don't believe your lying eyes and ears. Just believe what the giga corporation's telling you. It's like, oh yeah, I'm sure they're going to be totally real about it.
This character here, let me just rewind that really quick. This lady here, why her and why not just Petra? Like, why aren't we playing as characters that already exist within the Horizon world that we already all love and know and have?
It's because they're trying to be innovative, give you access to players that really make you feel like a new tier of character. Like, if you've ever wanted to play a game as an actual Teletubby, you can do that now. In Concord, I don't know about you guys, I ask all the time, I want to play as a trash can. And they let you. It's about escapism, really.
Already exist within the Horizon world that we already all love and know and have backstories and are part of the canon. Why do we need, I'll back up again, why do we need these brand new people that we know nothing about? And there is going to be a story campaign that you can play solo for this game. It's not going to be in the playtest. And so maybe they will convince me that I like these characters through the story campaign. But right now, I just think it comes across as like, we're just introducing these crazy hero characters all of a sudden. She has like a force field that Aloy doesn't even have. That's the other thing, is they have these abilities that even Aloy doesn't have, which just kind of breaks down her being like the pinnacle hunter, the apex hunter of the Horizon world. This character I think is pretty cool. It seems like she has like a stalker companion. I think that's kind of cool. This character's name is Sun, and she's pretty cool too, I think. So like
Yeah, to be clear, there is like actual Horizon fans have a problem with characters being introduced who are significantly better than Aloy at a bunch of different things, and they just never really acknowledge it because Aloy is supposed to be at the pinnacle. She's supposed to be different. And so if you then have like a marshmallow running around that is better at different things than Aloy is, it's a problem. It's a problem, It makes Aloy less important and less impressive, which is an issue. It's also, you have to ask yourself, okay, why did they choose? Because they chose to go with this route. They chose to go with new characters from the outset, okay? Before all this. You got to remember, they worked on this game for like 5 or 6 years, okay? It's been in the works since like right at COVID, pre-COVID era, okay? So rewind your mind to that time before you had Concords, Suicide Squads. Like, we're talking before any of that had launched, before much of it had even been revealed. So back then they chose to go with brand new hero characters and everything, probably inspired by games like Overwatch, Rainbow, things like that were finding a lot of success with that archetype. And they chose to go with this. Now, what I find fascinating about that is because choosing different characters than the core cast of Horizon seems to me to be intentionally done to avoid or separate the game from like the base Horizon games, to make it a separate thing, which is interesting. Because if you're trying to appeal to that fandom to come in and give you an automatic player base, it doesn't make sense why you are pivoting away from that. You know what I'm saying? Like it feels weird to target a totally different audience before they knew that audience would be turned off by this. Maybe they were just ahead of the curve and they knew, hey, I don't think Forbidden West and Zero Dawn players, because at this point when they started this, Forbidden West hadn't even launched yet. So maybe they already knew that this probably wasn't going to have a lot of audience overlap, but it's just a bizarre choice.
On her being like the pinnacle hunter, the apex hunter of
Kartoffel says, good to see you, my friend, by the way. They even said this is going to be lore accurate. Can you imagine these characters being included into the Horizon 3 storyline? Good Lord. Bro, how would they even do that? Like, see why it upsets people? Like, it just starts to break things. It just starts to break things. And my guess, I don't have a source for this. This is just, call it a hunch. My guess is that they were told, we need you to do a live service game, because Jim Ryan and Herman Holst, they were telling everybody to do a live service game. Even like monolithic studios like Naughty Dog, who are regularly dropping Game of the Year contenders, they said, you're going to work on The Last of Us Online. Like Naughty Dog could have already had one game out by now and probably be about to release a second one if they hadn't been forced to spend and waste all of that time. And so I'm guessing that they told Guerrilla, you're going to do that after Forbidden West. And After that, you're going to do this, and we need it to be a hero based game because that has huge monetization potentiality. And you're going to do that. And so it's got to be a set of characters. We also think that it should be brand new characters that we can really go crazy with when it comes to skins and monetization and stuff. And we're going to do all this. And you can just start to see how an executive might start to describe that. And it could lead to this situation. And if you doubt me, I want to bring up this. This is a clip that has been making the rounds, which is like absolutely crazy. But this is from it's Jeff. What's his last name? The former head guy of Overwatch. What's his name? Jeff Kaplan. Jeff Kaplan. Okay, look at this. Look at this. This is a clip that he did talking about his departure from Blizzard. Okay, this is something that happened in the same era that all these live service games were greenlit. Okay, watch this.
And would it boil down for me, like what sort of ultimately broke me in my Blizzard career was I got called in the CFO's office.
Also, just he worked at Blizzard. Sorry.
And he sits me down and he says, he gives me a date, which at the time was 2020 and was going to slip to 2021, but at the time it was 2020. And he said, Overwatch has to make in 2020. And then every year after that, it needs a recurring revenue. And then he says to me, if it doesn't do dollars, we're going to lay off 1,000 people, and that's going to be on you.
That's how these big corporations are actually run. Okay? That's how it's actually run. Is some bigwig CFO sits down and says, you need to achieve $50 million a year, $100 million a year, whatever the number is. It's not particularly important. The point is, it was a big number. And if you don't, I'm going to fire 1,000 people and it's your fault.
$20 through Super Chat. Hey Luke, I feel like a problem that doesn't get brought up enough on how games don't make enough money back is because of the exorbitant amount of money they spend on the game. For example, Spider-Man 2 and FF7 Rebirth.
Yeah, I do think so. That is a piece of this puzzle. What is crazy about the high demand of return is also that they have to more than make up for the development costs. Games like Spider-Man 2 costing $300 million. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that math doesn't math. That doesn't really work. You're eating a lot of cost on that. I genuinely don't understand how they could get to that cost for the game they ended up putting out. Like, I don't know if they're just paying people $150,000 a year for what industry standard rates would be like a $50,000 or $60,000 job. I don't know if their pay is just crazy high. I don't know if it's that they are spending a lot of time in incubation and prototyping that wasn't needed. I don't know. I don't understand it, but I think we can all agree $300 million for like a 12-hour game is insane, especially when you compare it to other games. Like KCD 2 was put together for like 40 or 50 million, which is crazy. It's like actually crazy. Adidas guy says, yeah, Wukong, hold on, I gotta scroll up. Wukong cost 75 million and made $1 billion. Wukong is peak and games don't need to be more than that. Well, I mean, it's just, there's clearly a difference in their budgeting and how this actually worked out. The numbers don't work. I think there was also at one of their, I'll have to dig, we'll circle back to it. I have to dig into it because in one of the financial filings that Pearl Abyss did at one of their earnings calls, they talked about how much they've spent on Crimson Desert so far, and it was way less than you would think, like way less. And it was just very interesting to be like, what? But anyway, circling back to this, I just think across the board, this whole thing is kind of a dumpster fire and kind of a mistake. I think it's really telling, like more than anything, I think hearing Arctics talk about it is very interesting because he knows Horizon better than 99% of people out there. And he's left disenfranchised and frustrated, but also specifically seeing who they are bringing in to get feedback on this latest round. I think this tells you more than anything who they're trying to appeal to. This game, they're not trying to appeal to PlayStation fans, Horizon fans, none of that. They're trying to appeal to the casual gamer, the people on the outside of the PlayStation bubble, the Horizon bubble. And they're hoping that those more casual players will get in there. And to be fair, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them out there, but they are clearly, and the data backs it up, they're entrenched in what they play. Like it's a lot harder to pull a Fortnite player over from Fortnite to play your game than it is to pull a Horizon player to play your Horizon game. You know, that's a lot trickier. So it's going to be interesting to see. Now, they did have a playtest. They did have a closed playtest at the end of February, a couple of weeks back. Based on my estimations of the data that we have, it looks like on PC, they only invited probably 600 to 800 people out, which is less than I've seen before for tests like that. That would suggest probably one of two things. Number one, the game is farther out than we thought. So if it's farther out, they'll do smaller tests, and then the tests will get bigger as they get closer to launch. As we saw, even with Marathon, where they did a really small test after the initial summer reveal or April reveal, and then it expanded as they got closer to launch. That could be part of it. It could also be that the interest is just really low. So they just frankly didn't have that many people. But it's going to be fascinating to see how that goes. But if I had to put money on it, I'm guessing we'll have another gospel song written pretty soon. Yeah, because it's supposed to launch this year. We'll see. We'll see. Sorry, I know that came from like one super chat and then I just rambled about it for 45 minutes.
Donated 100 Saudi riyals
Saudi.
for super chat. Marathon sacrifices fun for bloat. Designed for MTX and engagement KPIs over player experience, its number 45 Steam rank suggests a grim future without change.
All right, it stopped reading. Kaplan's insights likely mirror the reality at Sony and Bungie. Yeah, to be clear, this is not just a Blizzard thing. This is an industry-wide thing. Because again, like I've take a shot, everyone take a shot. I have a corporate finance degree. There you go. It'll get you a little pick-me-up right there. The whole basis of this is 4 years of education right here, okay? All of corporate financial anything is number go up, we are happy. If number go down, we are angry. If number stay flat, we are still a little bit less angry. This is the only acceptable outcome, is if the number goes up. If your number stays flat, you're dying. If it's going down, you're dying. If it's not accelerating as fast as it used to, you're dying. Okay? It has to always go up, no matter what. And that's why you get this feeling of like, when is enough enough? Like if you're making billions, how is this not enough? Like, how are we still pushing for more and more and more? And it's literally this. It's literally this. Now, part of it is tied back to something that like actually Warren Buffett has complained about. Warren Buffett has actually pushed and lobbied for taking and restructuring how corporate reporting works. So on publicly traded companies, you have to report your financials. I believe it's true globally, but in the US, it's at least this way. Maybe there's some country out there where it doesn't apply. But in the US, it works where every quarter, you know, you have to report your financials for Q1, for Q2, for Q3. And that means that every 3 months, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on your numbers. What does that mean effectively? It means that you can never really take a long-term approach to running your business because you're always worried, instead of going from Q1 results all the way to Q4 or to next year's Q1, you're always worried about what's happening in the next 3 months, which is why this becomes the norm, why everything just becomes about number go up, number go up, number go up. Because if the number drops from Q1 to Q2, stays flat to Q3, and then for Q4, it explodes super high, that doesn't matter because right here and right here, they're just going to see that the numbers went down or stayed flat. And so Warren Buffett has tried to petition for this to change and to basically cut out Q2 and Q4 and to just do twice a year reporting, basically at the start of the year and middle of the year, call it good. And I think that would be way better for a lot of these companies, but it's also why you can see like privately held gaming companies, they don't fall for the same stuff. They don't do the same type of thing because they don't need to. They're not beholden to some shareholder that's demanding the number go up every few weeks, you know? But anyway, it's going to be fascinating to see how it goes. But the thing with live service was that it was seen at like 5 to 6 years ago, it was seen as a fairly safe bet. If you spent 100 or 200 million on a live service game, it would explode. That's not true anymore. If anything, right now, there is a bizarre like contempt for big budget live service where people see like the more you spent on it, the harder you tried to make it a thing, the less they like it, the more turned off they get because it's seen as desperate. It's seen as like cringe. Like, stop trying to make it a thing. It's not a thing. It's not fetch. You know, fetch is a thing. This ain't a thing. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it goes. But I think effectively, we're just going to see live service stuff slow down a lot. They're going to pivot and try to find a different way to make the number go up. And honestly, I think a lot of that is going to come into spending a lot of money in Eastern developers. Western developers are plagued by things like unions and, work-life balance, livable wages, things like that are expensive. Eastern studios in like China, for example, dude, they can come out. They'll have 2,000 people working on the next Black Myth Wukong. They pay them a Happy Meal and a pat on the back, you know? And that's it. And they'll pump that game out faster than a Western studio can. It'll probably be better because they're not burdened by any sort of cultural baggage. And they're largely, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are still privately held. They haven't been scooped up yet. And that changes things. You know, that just changes things. The average salaries in China for game developers are way lower than you would think, especially because you got to remember a lot of these big studios in Western markets are based in like Montreal. They're based in San Francisco. They're based in Paris. They're based in pretty expensive places to live. So the average salaries have to balance that out. That's not a good thing. Oh, to be clear, there's a difference between what I think the reality is and what I would like to be the case if I was the God King Emperor of gaming. If I had a magic wand to wave it, I'd be like, no, everybody gets a livable wage. Bing! We don't waste time on live service crap that nobody wants. Bing! You know, I'd go through all these things. But I'm, unfortunately for all of us, I'm not the God King of gaming, so I can't do that. But I think when you are like one of these big wig executives and you're like, where do we put $500 million? I think they're way more likely to throw it at a small studio in China where their money goes a lot farther than give it to somebody in Montreal and hope that they have the 1 in a million successful live service game, you know? I think that's just how it is, you know? I don't like it, but that's how it is, I think.